Hello, whoever would watch this video. So I made this to talk a little bit about some things that I've been thinking about in terms of country music and cancel culture, and just 2020 in general has brought up a lot of different feelings and thoughts about the country music industry and exclusion. So yeah, come on that journey with me. It'll be fun. So earlier this year, the Chicks started releasing new music again after 14 years when they released their last album, Taking the Long Way. So they started their new album rollout with their title track and lead single Gaslighter, released in early March, and as I'm sure you are well aware, the world started turning upside down in early March. The Chicks eventually changed their name to The Chicks, and they released their album Gaslighter in July. And through all this time, there were a lot of different conversations about the Chicks and cancel culture, which itself is a controversial term, just based on all of the artists who have been canceled as of late. And if you need a reminder why the Chicks would be a part of that conversation, let's do a quick flashback to that fateful evening in 2003 at a concert in London.
Just so you know, we're ashamed the President of the United States is from Texas.
Yeah, so after that, the Chicks were promptly Dixie chicked is the official term, I believe. And I had heard of this term, but I didn't really know what it meant, and I too wanted to think about how the Chicks connected to today's cancel culture, if that's a real thing. Again, controversial term. And so I started watching their documentary Shut Up and Sing from 2006, which was about the controversy. And I found out that I was thinking about things completely wrong is one way you could say it. I had this light bulb moment when Marty McGuire, who is the fiddle player, she says that the comments were the best thing that had ever happened to them. Even though obviously they got death threats, they got blacklisted from country radio, and she still said that it was the best thing that had ever happened to them as a band. And that's when I was like, okay, I've been seeing all of these headlines in 2020 that are about country music artists being excluded, and I knew that none of those artists would say that their exclusion was the best thing that had ever happened to them. So that's when I knew I started wanting to push my thinking into a new direction. So I wanted to think about how the industry has these differences in the way that they lash out between going down in a big flame, a big fire, versus being swept under the rug. It's one of the first people who I thought of was Shelley Wright. Shelley is known for hits like Shut Up and Drive from 1997 and her number one hit from 1999, Single White Female.
I know that every morning you go thumbing through the personal warnings. You grab the latest copy, a cup of...
And Shelley is also one of the first mainstream country acts to come out as gay. After I saw Shut Up and Sing, I was on a bit of a music documentary kick, and so I was really excited to watch Wish Me Away, which is Shelley's documentary from 2011, and in it she follows her journey of figuring out how she wants to come out, and she's writing her memoir during this documentary and figuring things out. And so after the documentary, I did end up buying and reading her memoir too, called Like Me, which I enjoyed. And yeah, it was just really striking to me how her personality throughout the documentary and the book was just so, I could just see how she had gotten so popular and successful. She was just really likable, and I was happy to follow her story so much. So one of the light bulb moments for me, the second light bulb moment that I had throughout this process, was when her producer and an artist in his own right, Rodney Crowell, predicts what will happen to Shelley when she comes out, which she came out in 2010 on the Today Show. And he says that, you know, the way that these things go, you know, there's either brimstone and fire or you get iced out. And he thinks that Shelley will be iced out, which is what happened to her. The Grand Ole Opry didn't invite her back until 2019, whereas before 2010 she had been playing there 5 to 20 times a year. So that was an obvious rejection. No one in Nashville stood up and said that they were proud of her or celebrated her in any way. She says in her book that she did get some private emails of support, but no real big stance from any of her colleagues in Nashville. So why is this important? Well, I think that it's important that the differences in the two documentaries are that one is about an instance that really did shape the chicks' careers for the better, and that it let them break free and really do whatever they wanted to do and not have to depend on the country music industry for anything. They can do whatever they want to do, say whatever they want to say, make whatever they want to make, and people will listen to them if they are the chicks speaking. Whereas for Shelley Wright, that captured a moment where the industry kind of locked her away, and it effectively doesn't really act like she exists anymore. She was iced out, and that is really the big difference between the two reactions. And I think, you know, while she wasn't at the height of her success in 2010, the industry definitely had a lot of different options that it could have taken that not only would have been the right thing to do, the non-homophobic thing to do, the accepting, welcoming thing to do, if the industry cares about money, which, you know, you hear all the time, they could have widened their fan base. They could have made their fan base more accepting towards the LGBTQ plus community. If they want to bring national attention to country music, which it seems like they do when they invite all of these artists outside of the genre to perform on things like award shows, then they could have brought national attention to country music by having a role model and a champion and welcoming someone in the LGBTQ plus community and having it be this really big celebratory moment. But they just didn't do that. They made her invisible. So a second artist who I was thinking of as someone who has been swept under the rug is Linda Martell. Just this year, Rolling Stone interviewed her in an article that is very fittingly titled Country Music's Lost Pioneer. Linda Martell was the first Black woman to perform on the Grand Ole Opry. If she wasn't the first, she was one of the first Black women to have a song chart on the country charts, and she had an album out in 1970 called Color Me Country. She stepped away entirely from country music in 1974. In the article, she talks a ton about the racism that she experienced and how that was likely a factor in stepping away. For example, she was literally signed to a label called Plantation Records. Like, what? Like, if that isn't the most blatantly racist thing that you could do, I don't know what is. And again, why is this important? Well, for as much as country music claims to celebrate its history and preserve and remember its history, Linda Martell and her history-making art has been swept under the rug and largely forgotten. And she was very clearly iced out of the industry back in the 70s and continues to be today, with her continuously being forgotten. One example of that is that there are no Black women in the Country Music Hall of Fame, and that fact makes it seem as though Black women are not a part of country music history, which obviously not true. It makes it seem like Black women don't want to be in country music or shouldn't be in country music, which again is completely untrue. The way that the industry pushes these people under the rug is so significant, and important in the consequences that it has, and these are very lasting consequences. And that's the danger of excluding anyone and everyone who isn't white or straight, practically. Of course it's racist and homophobic, of course it's unfair to the artists themselves, of course it's unfair to the fans who want to see more of themselves in the artists and music that they love, and it's unfair to everyone because they're missing out on talent, just missing out on good music. So it's crazy to me that in 2020 this continues to be a massive problem in country music, and all of these things just create this myth that country music is only white or straight, and it's only a space that is acceptable for those people, and that just isn't true. In a genre that's all about being real, that just is so blatantly untrue. So a contemporary example of this phenomenon, if you want to call it that, is Mickey Guyton's career. Mickey had a single in 2015 that charted and peaked at number 34 on the Hot Country Airplay chart, called Better Than You Left Me. And then she was teasing that an album would be coming out in 2017, and then it just never did. And she has been getting a ton of attention recently, largely from press outside of country music, although she was the first Black woman to perform solo at the ACMs this year.
She thinks love is love, and if you work hard, that's enough. Skin's just skin, and it doesn't matter.
While that's great and obviously super earned and well-deserved, it's still unfair that that attention had to come as a result of tragedy and racism. Mickey is undeniably talented. Her voice is often compared to Carrie Underwood's. She was just nominated for a Grammy when she debuted her song What Are You Gonna Tell Her at the Country Radio Seminar earlier this year in February. She got a standing ovation, and the Country Radio Seminar is supposedly for radio executives to talk about what should be played on the radio and things like that. And the song has barely been picked up by any radio stations, and she got a standing ovation at the radio seminar. These things just don't make sense. Despite all of the press and attention that she's gotten, she could only release an EP this year in September, I think. And not even a full-length album. Crazy. So Mickey was iced out in 2015, 2016, before she could release her album. And I'm very, very worried that it will happen to her again this year and in the coming year if the industry doesn't actually start picking up her singles and supporting her. So while cancel culture maybe doesn't exist for people who actually say something racist or homophobic or xenophobic or something along those lines, that's one conversation. And the conversation about country artists who do not fit the white, straight, very narrow mold is a completely different conversation that needs to be ongoing. So I think that watching Mickey's career over the next year and so many other up-and-coming, really, really excellent Black country artists, other people of color in country music, of course, and LGBTQ stars in country music, it's going to be a really good indicator, I think, of where we're going and how much work we still have to do. So many people, especially in 2020, but for a very long time, have been thinking about and writing about and talking about exactly what I've just been talking about, and what I kind of had to have this own little journey myself this year that has been super necessary, and I will link their writings and things down below. Thank you for watching this and listening to me rant a little bit. I hope that you maybe learned something, had some thoughts, I don't know. Yeah, thank you for watching.